All right, we have Mike Tomlin's press conference after our week 12. I had to think about what week that was. Week 12 loss to the Chicago Bears. I have listened to, pretty good portion of stuff as far as any stats or you know this like the actual not immediate emotional reaction, like actually you've had time to sit down, analyze it, and regurgitate that information. So I will get into that after Mike Tomlin speaks, but let's see what he had to say, see if he adds anything.
I thought it was a hard-fought game. Certainly got to compliment Coach Johnson and the Bears, man, on a winning performance. Like I just told the team, man, it's tight when it's good on good, particularly when you're in a hostile environment. Any number of plays could have changed the outcome of the game, and that's why we just got to live every down singularly in all three phases, knowing that. And I think today was a very good illustration of that. I thought, we could have had better field position with our kickoff team, for example. We had more timely punting with our punt team. Thought we started the second half slow. I think we had 2 3-and-outs on offense. I thought our defense could have smiled in the face of adversity better. In the first half in particular, I think we got stopped on 4th down. They scored a touchdown. We turned the ball over. They scored a touchdown. And I think if we're going to be good, you got to make people settle for field goals or less under those circumstances. And so we're all responsible. We know that. That game is an illustration of that. It's just tight when it's good on good. And we didn't make enough plays and enough sequences, as I mentioned, to be successful. DK had an ankle.
Yep.
You saw him go back in.
In and out.
Joey Porter's got a hip flexor. He wasn't able to return. Broderick Jones had stingers, I think. I don't have any further description of that. I think he'll be examined for further information. Questions?
You talked about
It's not bad.
the decision to not use Aaron, and could he be ready by next week?
I anticipate him being ready for next week. It was a prudent decision to make.
Okay.
Certainly it wasn't a fluid week for him. It was a fluid week for Mason in terms of reps and so forth. And so I think it'll be in our rear view as we move forward. I'm hopeful of that.
Did Aaron say he was ready to play today?
Aaron always wants to play.
Mike, did you make that decision this morning?
Yesterday.
Mike, you had a chance to go up 10 in the first half. Why did you want to go for it on 4th and 1?
Because if you can't make it on 4th down and 1, man, oftentimes you don't deserve to win.
What are some of the factors that next week you think will be different for Aaron in this one? Is it just the snaps and the amount he was able to play, or physically will be?
Certainly just on the surface level, the amount he will be able to work next week.
Mike, overall, your thoughts on Mason's performance?
I thought he was game. He always is. He made plays for us, particularly in the 4th quarter. But as a collective, him included, we didn't do enough to win.
Does Mason's play dictate whether or not Rodgers starts next week?
I'll talk to you guys about next week. Next week, I'm here to analyze what just transpired.
Mike, did you debate on going for it on 4th down with 2 minutes left in the game?
I did not. I was holding all 3, and as you can see, we got the ball back.
Anyone else?
Mike, what made middle of the field so tough to defend against Chicago for a number of those series?
I thought they just did a nice job, man. You got to give those guys credit. He had some time in inside breaking routes, man. The quarterback was highly accurate on play pass, turning his back to the defense and coming up and throwing. And sometimes you got to give credit to the opponent, and I certainly do in this instance.
Mike, what went into James Pierre starting over Slay?
Again, he got a quality week's work. When you're going into tough competitive circumstances, sometimes you base decisions on preparation and who gets the looks. And certainly, as we mentioned and talked about over the last several weeks, James Pierre has been playing well. We'll see what holds for next week.
Mike, if you had a timeout that last play, would you have thought about trotting Boswell out there? But since it was,
I'm not into the hypothetical world.
Mike, what made Caleb Williams so tough to stop today?
The same thing that makes him tough to stop every week. He's done a nice job of extended plays without a whole lot of negativity. He's highly accurate, man. He spreads the ball around to a lot of people. He's a good player.
Defense on quick changes can come up with a big play. What do you attribute that to? And is that an area that I know you guys focus on that a lot?
As I mentioned, they made some plays.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. So a little bit into what Coach said. Those 3 injuries. Oh, they don't seem too bad. DK's is probably the best situation because he was able to come in, then he was out and he's back in, so he was in and out. But then, like, Joey was out, Broderick was out, right? So DK seems like he's in the best position based off that. And he's probably the one that we can afford to lose the least. So we do really need him. And then let's see. The early 4th down, where they went for it, right? I think you could easily point to that and say those 3 points, now it's tied at the end. And I think that's a bit of a yes and no, right? Because let's say the Steelers do that, and now it's that adds 3 points. But how differently do the Steelers play? How differently do the Chicago Bears play? Like, in the end of the game, if it's tied, Chicago's not trying to run out the clock. They're trying to go down the field to get into field goal range or score a touchdown. They're not running the clock in order, okay, we're up 3, we're going to run the clock. Instead of, we're tied, we got to get down the field. So Chicago plays that completely differently if the score is tied at that point. What was it? The 64-yarder, potential 64-yarder at the end of the game where they asked if he had considered trotting Boz out, right? This was brought up, and I think it's an interesting idea, I guess you could call it, or thought. So, for anyone that doesn't know, there are footballs that are used during plays, and then there are footballs that are used during kicks, right? So, if the clock's running quick, you don't have a timeout. Clock's running quick, you got to get down the field. You got to trot your kicking unit on, get your other guys off. Like, you're just hustle, right? And it's a long field goal rate like this. And you're like, okay, we want the kicking football out there. But there's not enough time, so now you have the non-kicking football out there. And it's not like you can't kick the non-kicking football. You absolutely can. But it's not the football designed for kicking, right? So now Boz is trying to kick what would be, I believe, his career long in Chicago with a non-kicking ball. Plus, what was the weather? Did Boz think he could kick a 64-yarder? He might say to the cameras that he thought he could, or he knew he could. But he talks to Danny Smith and says, hey, if we're going this way, if we're facing this direction, I can kick it from 61. Right? Anything more than that, and it might not happen. So, was there a situation where the coaching staff knew, and Boz knew, 64 with a non-kicking football, and with all the information we have, do we really want to send out Boz? Now, the reporter asked if he had had a timeout. And that's the thing. Maybe, you take that and say, okay. now we can get Boz out there with the kicking ball, and I'm not aware of what the weather was that day in Chicago. I don't know what the turf conditions were like, or I say turf, what the field conditions were like. I don't know if it's grass or turf. But if the field conditions weren't great, if the wind or whatever, you go off the information you have. And is it possible that the information they had said, we need to get to 60 or less for Boz, and now you're at 64, and it's like, okay, this is too far. We need to go for it on 4th and 6. Was it 4th and whatever? We need to, or 4th and 9. I don't remember what it was, but we need to go for this long 4th now. So that's one thing. Another thing is, it was brought up that the Steelers really didn't use the middle of the field, right, for against the Chicago Bears defense. And they had their top 3 inside linebackers all hurt prior to the game. And you're not using the middle of the field. Now, was the game plan during the week not to use the middle of the field? Like, Chicago leads the league in turnovers. And it's, okay, there are so many people on the inside of the field. Yes, are they not as good? Are they not the starters? Your typical starters? That's correct, they're not. But there's still bodies in there. So, were you trying to avoid turning the ball over? Were you... was the game plan before you knew they were going to be out? Was it going to be to utilize the outsides? Was Chicago doing something that made it disadvantageous to go after the middle of the field? Were they sending an extra body into the middle to make up for the lack of quality player? I couldn't tell you. There's any slew of possibilities as to why the Steelers did not attack the middle of the field when it seemed like they should, with the top 3 guys being out. It did seem like, in the event of a loss, that, like, if Aaron played and they lost, it should have been, you should have given him another week. But if you play Mason and he loses, which is what happened, then it's, you should have played Aaron. Like, you don't come out of that good unless you win. Like, if you win with Aaron, okay, great. If you win with Mason, cool. Aaron got a week. But, in the event of a loss, you were lose-lose. As far as what you should have done. Right? So, that's another topic. What else did I hear? Tomlin brought up the field position, like special teams. Going into this game, Steelers were number 2 in the league in starting field position. That's between their special teams and any turnovers that they get. We are 2nd in the league. And we had a bad day on special teams, right? Waitman had a bad day of punting. We had a bad day of the return game, because what Chicago was doing was and it's what a couple teams have been doing this year with the landing zone. You basically kick the ball so low it bounces just inside the 20. And that's the thing. If you do it right, it'll bounce just inside the 20. You can't have it bounce at the 21 because that's not in the landing zone and you'll get a flag. You need to have it bounce at like the 19-18 yard line. And then we even saw it with Kenneth Gainwell one time. He bobbled it. And then the Steelers had terrible starting position. So that's something that that kickers across the league are doing, that special teams coaches are teaching, is, okay, here's this new kickoff rule. Here is how we are going to utilize it to our advantage. So that definitely hurt the Steelers there as far as starting field position. And then I think they outgained them yardage wise and or time of possession wise, I think, is what I heard. But we see that, okay, you still lost even though that happened. And like the Bears were like the number 2 run offense in the entire NFL coming into this game. And we did pretty good to stop the run. You know, it actually wasn't that bad. Now, passing, that's a completely different story. But teams are also passing on us at an exceptionally high rate. So we got to figure that out. Somehow, some way, we got to figure that out. I don't think it's the D-line's problem, right, as far as the defense goes. Like, I think we were like 3rd in sacks coming into this with, let me think, who was ahead of us? Denver by a lot. And I think Atlanta was like 1 or 2 ahead of us, right? So 3rd in the league in sacks. You're stopping the run. So that tells us that the D-line and probably even the linebackers, so your front 7 is doing fine. It's the back end where you struggle. And like teams are getting the ball out super quick. Like what the Steelers were doing with Rodgers, getting the ball out super quick. The teams are doing the same thing against the Steelers to neutralize the pass rush. Like Caleb was 2.6 seconds to throw or something like that, and he was a lot higher over the course of the year. Like teams are like, we don't want to deal with this pass rush. We're getting rid of this thing quick. And they're neutralizing the pass rush. So then you try to say, okay, maybe if we blitz, right, but then what the hell is it called? By blitzing, you compromise the back end. That's what it is. I was like, what the hell's the word? Compromise. So, you are unable to cover as well, right? So, I mean, it's just that day, Chicago was that little bit better. Making 1 or 2 plays the Steelers were not able to make. And yeah, the Steelers scored on defense, but like Kyle Duggar, he missed a pick. We left DJ Moore wide open on a touchdown. It's just, they're kind of Jekyll and Hyde in a way, where we've had games like against the Bengals last week. I mean, even though the Colts game was close, we shut down Jonathan Taylor. The Browns, which that was Dylan Gabriel, nothing like crazy, right? But we've had some good games And then other times they just get lit up. And other times, like, we're good in the first half, right? And I remember, like, when the offense was bad over the last couple of years, and it was slow starts, and they come back in the third and the fourth, and they rally, and, you know, sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. And it's like, you know, we really need to just get off to a fast start. And this year, it's fast starts. We are off to fast starts. And if football games are only 2 quarters, I'd be very interested to see what the Steelers' record would be. I might put it like right up here right now, what the Steelers' record would be if the game was only the first half. But like we're leading in the first half, and then we lose it in the second half. And it's happened multiple times where we get off to the fast start and then we just lose it. And I don't understand how over the past couple of years we could have been so good at second half adjustments, right? We were terrible in the first quarter, but we were like the best team in the league in the third, right? That was the second half adjustments. We were fantastic at it. And here we are, where we get off to the fast start, but now at the end of the game we crumble. Like, at one point, we allowed, like, out of all the points we allowed, like 47%, a little under half, were allowed in just the fourth quarter. Like, we're bad in the fourth quarter, and it's just like, why? How can we be that bad? So it is just, I don't know how it gets fixed, right? And I know everyone's like, I have the solution. Fire Tomlin. Like, that's how things get fixed. And I guess I don't understand the optimism, or can I say overconfidence, that getting rid of Mike Tomlin will fix all of the problems. Like, if Mike Tomlin gets fired, gets traded, whatever, right? He's not the coach anymore. And you bring in Coach John Doe. And in 5 years, nothing has changed. We're still just that roughly 500 team, first round exit in the playoffs. Like, if in 5 or even 10 years, if nothing changes, right, then was it Mike Tomlin's fault? And some people might still say yes, and this coach sucks too, and he has to go. But at that point, like, okay, who's to blame if nothing changed, even though you changed the coach? It's just, I don't know, it's a little baffling that everyone just assumes that firing Coach Tomlin will, like, guarantee things get fixed. And I just don't know how you guarantee that. That's it for this one. If you guys did enjoy it, please do leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.